All right, you're live.
Good evening. I now call to order the February 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Scottsdale Veterans Advisory Commission to order. Will our staff liaison, Kelly Corset, please call the roll?
Chair Polk.
Present.
Vice Chair Jackson.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Ashley.
Present.
Commissioner Dominic.
Present.
Commissioner Palmer.
Present.
And Commissioner Stemple.
Present.
Chair Polk, your commission is all present.
Thank you. It's nice to all be in person. Thanks, everyone. Next on the agenda is discussion and possible action to approve the January 5th, 2022 Veterans Advisory Commission meeting minutes. Are there any comments or corrections on the minutes?
No.
Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion from the commission.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Item moved by Commissioner Palmer and seconded by Commissioner Stemple. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And are there any nays? Any opposed? All right, well, the motion passes. So again, thanks to all of you. Next on the agenda is the presentation, discussion, and possible recommendations regarding Arizona Governor Doug Ducey's veterans initiatives and programs. And there may be slight.
Chair Polk, it does appear that Alyssa Salvaggio from the governor's office is with us. Alyssa, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Wonderful.
Good evening, Alyssa. Thank you for joining us. So Alyssa Salvaggio is the Senior Policy Assistant in Governor Ducey's office, and she's been gracious enough to join us this evening to discuss some of the initiatives, present some of the initiatives and just fill us in more on possibly some of Governor Ducey's thoughts in the coming year regarding budget or anything else that she thinks we need to know about. So I will let you kind of take the floor, Alyssa.
Awesome. Well, first off, thank you all so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you all. Just to give you kind of a little bit more about myself. I am a senior policy assistant in our office, and I focus on veterans initiatives and issues, as well as I work closely with the Department of Liquor and the Department of Gaming as well. So that's just a little bit about kind of the portfolio that I handle it from a policy perspective. But we've had definitely a good year in terms of just kind of taking a look at what's been happening in the past year. At the conclusion of the last legislative session in June, we successfully passed a budget, which included the elimination of all state income taxes on veterans' military pensions. And then it also included funding for a new veteran home in Mojave County, as well as to support 12 new veteran benefits counselors positions at the Arizona Department of Veteran Services. Those were some really big priorities that we were able to get through in the budget last year, and just kind of to look forward to what we're looking at this year. And please feel free to ask any questions at any time if anybody has any questions. Certainly happy to answer there too. But the governor in his State of the State address on January 10th did announce that he has a proposed establishment of a tuition waiver scholarship program for the spouses of veterans. This is a key initiative and budget priority for our office. So the draft legislation is completed, and we're just taking a look at some of the finalization of that process here. So more details to come on that, but that's just something to kind of stay tuned that program will be hopefully successfully through the legislature and through the budget process as well. So we're very, very excited about that. And I think the primary goal there is just wanting to, we, of course, our office, the governor, is very supportive of our veteran community here in Arizona, and also wants to let the spouses know that, that they are extremely important, and that they are, they sacrifice so much just like our service members do. And so that's just something that would be regarded as a thank you to them as well, to be able to have that opportunity to continue their education as well. And then the third and last thing I wanted to update you all on is in collaboration with the Arizona Department of Veterans Services, the Arizona Coalition for Military Families, and the Arizona Department of Economic Security, as well as the Department of Administration. Our team has worked to establish an initiative that focuses on recruiting and retaining veterans in state government job opportunities. So throughout the past year, that's something that a marketing campaign there will be forthcoming as well. And I think we're tracking important metrics across the state in terms of our hiring and our retention of veterans across state government and who work in state government agencies, and really trying to improve the percentage of veterans who currently work for the state, as well as in continuing to improve best practices in terms of fostering that collaboration and appreciation for our veterans who work within the state as well. So again, that's something that's been in the works for almost a year now, but that's something we're continuing to focus hard on in terms of one of the major initiatives from our office. So those were the primary updates that I wanted to provide to you all. Does anybody have any questions? I'd be more than happy to just kind of foster discussion or answer any questions as you all need.
Thank you for that. This is Chairwoman Polk. Thank you for that presentation. And I believe we do have at least a few people that have some questions. So I will let Kelly kind of navigate that.
I didn't see whose hand went up first, so I will defer to Commissioner Ashley.
Good afternoon. Does the governor's budget plans for the next year include an additional 12 staffers?
Are you referring to the veteran benefits counselors that were? Gotcha. So those FTEs were granted in the last budget, or the budget to support those 12 additional staff members was appropriated in the last budget. So those have been appropriated to the department, and I believe they've begun the hiring process for those individuals. The budget this year, to my knowledge, does not include for this coming budget does not include 12 additional FTEs. Does that make sense?
I think next was Vice Chair Jackson.
So I saw the state income tax for veterans on pensions was exempting veterans. 12% of veterans in Arizona are retirees that actually have pensions, but many of the veterans here are disabled veterans. And I guess that's what I would look to focus on, would be disabled veterans. When you're talking about a proposed tuition waiver scholarship for spouses of vets and any additional tax incentives for disabled veterans who might come here. Have you considered the children of veterans who may actually be at more risk of having issues from deployment? And have you considered a property tax exemption for veterans at a certain disability level through the VA?
Gotcha. That's a really great question. I think that's something that has been discussed previously, but I'm more than happy to, I don't think I have a great answer for you at the moment, but I'd, be more than happy to, I think, what I can tell you is that that's something that, has been previously discussed, and I'm more than happy to, take that back to our office as feedback from you.
Thank you.
Next, I think, was Commissioner Palmer.
Yeah, just two questions, and I got educated by our previous commissioner who was a lawyer. How does the state define a veteran? Because for example, if they're still serving or if they're in the Guard or whatever, they're technically not a veteran. I'm just wondering, do you have an official definition of a veteran for the state as opposed to, say, the federal definition?
Yes, I believe we do have a formal definition. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but if you're comfortable with putting your email in the chat, I'd be happy to send you an email with the link to the statute so that you have it on hand.
Sure. And one other question, you're collecting the data on the veterans within the state government. Can you share that data?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if I can share all of the data, but let me talk with my team and see if we would be able to put together some sort of a one-pager that highlights the data that we've been collecting over the past year.
Yeah, and I'm not looking at names or anything. We're looking at just percentages, what you're talking about, where are they, and who you're tracking to in terms of pulling in as veterans for experience and stuff.
Of course. Yeah, I'd be happy to check on that and see if we would be able to provide that.
And let's see, I thought I had one more, but thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chair Polk.
So I guess, thanks to all of you for your questions. I would just request from you, Alyssa, that any emails that you send, whether it's to Chair Palmer, if you don't mind including Kelly in that too, so that we can all just get that information as a commission for our own reference. That would be very much appreciated.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that.
And what I'll do, Alyssa, is I'll just follow up with an email to you and we can connect, and then I'll just make sure the entire commission receives the information. We do have another question from Commissioner Dominic.
Hi, Alyssa. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I have a question about the opportunity for spouses of veterans and education. How far in education can that go? Can it terminate at MD, PhD, master's?
So what will be provided in the bill is it's going to be only for certifications, associate's degrees, or bachelor's degrees. It will not be for those master's level programs.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Palmer.
Yeah, sorry, a couple more questions. Do you have a master list in the state of veteran-owned businesses?
That is a great question. I'd be happy to touch base. Our Department of Veteran Services may have that information, and I'll be happy to touch base with them and see if they do.
Okay, and the city of Scottsdale started a new program called the Hub program that's trying to provide benefits to small businesses, not specifically veterans related, but is there any state initiatives or whatever for veteran small businesses that support their efforts that you're aware of, like helping to pay for licensing or along those lines?
Again, that's a really great question. I apologize. I don't have the answers. The department should have more information, and I'd be happy to see if they can provide that as well.
Yeah, because what I think we'd like to do, or I'll just throw that as a concept, is if there are benefits for veterans provided by the states, Kelly Corset has done a great job with our website and getting the information out to our veterans so we can make them more aware of what's available to them.
Sure. And I'm sorry, would you mind, you were looking for that master list of veteran-owned small businesses, is that correct?
Yeah, but if you have that would be great, because we're kind of tracking that because we'd like to see who's in Scottsdale, what small veterans businesses are in Scottsdale, but also any veterans. I say small business, it can be big business, but small business is kind of the focus. For veterans that are starting up businesses, are there any benefits? Because you got licensing, you got other things that have to be paid for that when you start up a small business. Does the state offer any benefits along that line?
Gotcha. Yep, that's a great question. I'll reach out to our department and see if they have any more info on the benefits that would be available if there are any.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Commissioner Stemple has a question.
Hi, this is Joel Stemple. I was wondering, are you aware, are they doing the grant reviews for the money that's appropriated for certain veterans organizations? Have they started that this year?
I don't know. Are you referring to the Veteran Donation Fund grants? Is that what you mean?
No, it's the one that Wanda Wright oversees her department. These are grants to various where they ask for money and those things, and they get reviewed.
Right. I want to say I think they have just started the grant. I think they've started the grant reviews, but let me check in and just make sure. Let me verify that. I'm almost 99% sure that that's correct, that they've started, but let me check with them too.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have any other questions?
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Alyssa, for being with us and fielding our questions. And we look forward to your follow-up, circling back with Kelly. And I hope it's appropriate to ask if we have any other additional questions or possibly need you to revisit us at a meeting in the months ahead, if you would be open to that. I know I would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you ever have a question about anything. If I don't have an answer right away, I will do my best to find one for you as quick as I possibly can. And yes, please feel free to let me know when, when there's a meeting down the road, and I'd be happy if my schedule allows to join.
Of course. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
All right. So on to the big thing on our agenda. Next, we're going to have Chrissy Hill, our citizen liaison. Chrissy's going to help us with a facilitated discussion and possible action. And I shouldn't say possible. I think there's going to be some action to update the Veterans Advisory Commission work plan. Just as a preface, Vice Chair Jackson and I and Kelly and Chrissy met a couple weeks ago just to kind of lay the groundwork, just so we all had a better idea of how tonight was going to work. So I just want to make all of you aware of that, and then I will give the floor to Chrissy.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Hi.
As Denise says, I'm Christy Hill. I work for Citizen Service. I've actually worked for the city for 39 years.
Oh my gosh.
Started out back in the day roving Vista del Camino Park as a rec leader, and then worked my way up through the system and ended up in this awesome department about 14 years ago. So I do a little bit of everything in the city. I'm kind of a pinch hitter, public relations, issue resolution, and I do a fair amount of facilitation. And so that's why I'm here this evening. So I thank you for having me. As Denise alluded, we met about a week or two ago and talked about what we think our food is here. Did I hear that? No?
Just our chairs.
Just chairs creaking, sorry. I keep waiting. So now I've lost track of where I'm at. So yes, so we have a fast moving kind of facilitation this evening. We're not going to reinvent the wheel because, as you know, your ordinances, your tasks really relate directly to the ordinance that is written for the commission. So the things that we'll be looking at tonight are more about the strategies assigned to those tasks. But just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be working on, we have a couple exercises designed specifically just to get you thinking about where you've been, where you're at now, where you want to go. Just get your minds thinking about what's going on in the environment today. For instance, the conversation that you just had with Alyssa, those are the kinds of things you'll be thinking about as you start to reassign your strategies with your tasks this year. Just keep in mind, because we are quick move in tonight, we've got about an hour and a half or so. We'll take whatever time is necessary, but we're thinking it'll be about an hour and a half to 2 at the most to do this. If we need me to come back, I certainly can. But we'll be moving quickly tonight. So the first activity that we have is those two activities that we talked about, which is doing an environmental scan. Then we've got a victory circle. We'll be going here to do some activity. And then we're going to get into your work plan and the tasks and kind of break that down specifically and talk a little bit about that. But before we dive in, always when we do these kinds of meetings, we like to share the guidelines for civil dialogue. And this was developed about 10 years ago from our group of Scottsdale leadership. And they developed this guideline for dialogue and then brought it to city council, who then supported that. And now in subsequent meetings, when we do this kind of thing, we always bring up guidelines for civil dialogue, which is, as a member of our Scottsdale community, I will genuinely listen, speak respectfully, and be accountable for my words and actions. And so that pretty much speaks for itself, but I love it. It's short and sweet and simple and so basic. So as we get started then, we're going to talk a little bit about our environmental scan, and we have about 10 minutes. We can take a little longer if we need to. But when I talk about environmental scan, what does that mean? It's thinking about what your commission and what you're doing and what you're all about and what your ordinance is and how does that relate to what's going on in the world in a micro way, which is in the city. And then thinking beyond that, what's going on at the state level, what's going on at the federal level. And we don't want you to, get too caught up in all of the details, but it's intended to get you thinking about what are the emerging issues? What are the things when you turn on the news or when you watch a podcast or when you talk to Alyssa in the governor's office? What are those emerging issues of things that are on the front plate or the forerunning area for your kind of work that you're doing as a commission for the veterans? Think about those things. And I'd just like you to take about 5 minutes. You've got some pads in front of you and a pen, and just take your little lined pad and jot down a couple thoughts about what's going on in your environment and what are those things that seem to be important to the work that you're doing. We'll take another 2 minutes and then I'll ask you to share some of your thoughts. All right. It's like everyone's pretty much ready as I see the pins dropping. What I'd like for you to do is, first of all, Vice Chair Jackson, would you be willing to jot down some of the comments that you're hearing?
Of course.
And then when I ask you to report out, you'll just pick up some of the most prevalent things that spoke to the group as we were discussing. So just, hit some of the top ones because we won't have time to share them all. But if each of you would look at your list, and then should we take a break and let everyone get their sandwiches and then
do that.
Yeah,
We could certainly do that.
we could do that. So we'll stop where the lists are right now, and then you can eat your sandwiches, and then we'll get back to talking about that. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna go get a protein drink really fast.
They're literally hot off the presses here. So. It definitely has 2 Sierra turkeys. I think the other ones are the chicken salad.
Stuff, a bit criminal, a bit crispy.
And then these feel like the steak and cheddar.
I haven't done much family.
Let me find out what our,
What do you like about probate? Like, what was the draw to that?
see if I can find out what the.
Okay.
And then my dad has it. So it was always interesting. And then I have an education. It's not as crazy as criminal law. Criminal law is just hard. Like I definitely believe in criminal defense.
Don't always need them, you know?
Yeah.
I've got friends that do it, and it's. So I started after I got done with before I got done, went to a firm and all these kind of things. So I mean, I probably could have done corporate law. And
What's that? Oh, it's just cold. I should have worn my other thing.
So I do.
I don't know where the thermostat is because when we started, it was nice and toasty. And now it's.
Transfer properties and all that done it. So I've done a ton of the fire department still want
There.
It'll keep us up.
This is where they watch it.
Just send a note to us, so we'll find out where it is.
Gilbert, Scottsdale,
Oh.
Pleasant Ridge.
Well, hopefully your other place will be done.
Oh, no, I'm not getting one.
I'm
Go ahead.
gonna.
Sooner than later.
Holy cow. There's 2
I have an MRI
sandwiches here.
tonight, so I have to fast.
Oh, you have to fast.
8:00 PM MRI.
You have 2 sandwiches too?
Better than 8
Yeah, I
AM,
guess I do. I have.
7 AM.
Well,
Are you not a morning person?
I am, I just don't like to go to the VA in the morning,
Oh,
because from here, I have to take Indian school and it's every single day. It's hard to get to the VA in the morning. At night, it's a breeze, you just go and then on the way back, it's easy. I don't mind doing it. I
my
don't,
daughter just had one today, an MRI, and it was 2 hours in the tube. It was nuts. Yeah. They did a full spinal
full
scan and all
spinal?
that. Yeah.
I don't know what mine would be. Not excited about it. I don't like MRIs,
No.
but whatever. They're doing contrast too, so I have to get poked.
Yeah.
I can't stand it, but.
Better than exploratory surgery.
Exactly.
That's true.
It's better than
Let's put it all
exploratory.
That's all they had before.
All right.
Yeah.
So are you guys good with chewing and talking and that?
Yeah.
Or,
Talking and going.
Stephen, do you want a larger pad of paper for notes? Think you'll be good on the,
Oh, never mind, we have one.
oh,
Yeah, whatever you'd like.
wider?
Pretty good note taker.
Okay, so as we think about that environmental scan, we're just gonna go around the room and ask each of you to share 1 or 2 of your top thoughts. And if somebody else mentions what you have written, then of course pick something different, right? So I would ask for my benefit, if you could turn your name tags around. I know most of you, but there are a few that I do not. And so it would be most helpful. Great. So Commissioner Anderson, if you're able, if you could share with us 2 of your top picks for environmental scan on what's going on out there in the world that would impact the Veterans Commission and the work that they do.
That broad, I was just trying to think of ways to increase awareness of veterans benefits and economic opportunity in the city.
You don't have to do 2, you can do just 1. That's up to you.
And then just specifically the city of Scottsdale website, veterans benefits, because I don't think a lot of people know about that, and just trying to figure out how to market that, make sure people know that.
Great. Commissioner Stemple, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I've been on this for a while. Financial education for veterans and their families. Talking about that a couple of years.
Yes.
And then the other thing, we had a presentation by, I believe it was the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. I think we ought to, I work with the Korean War veterans. Most of them are in their late 80s or 90s. And they need, some of them have caregivers or their wives are caregivers. And it's, kind of, it's tough. And the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, I think, talked about that. So I think we ought to make, I made them aware of it at our last meeting. And I think that that's something we should be working on, that, knowing that caregiving and for spouses to help them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay.
Caregiver assistance.
Thank you.
Correct.
That's great. Commissioner Palmer, what are your thoughts?
I've got three, if that's okay, but veteran transition challenges, both in education, jobs, and cultural adjustments. And it sort of goes to what the mayor had asked us to do in terms of helping veterans transition. The second one, which covers what Joel or Commissioner Stemple did on, I titled it as aging veterans. We've got the caregiver approach, but we also, is presented in one of the forums, the veteran suicide, which is predominantly the older group. So I just throw that as an aging veterans component we may want. And the last one is, and this goes to the definition of veteran. For the new commissioners, when we started this, it says veterans, but there's a specific legal definition of a veteran. But we expanded it to be active duty, family members, and National Guard, which technically don't fall into the veterans category. So the commission sort of at that time frame, and we can relook it, but we all agreed that that we would address all those issues, not just pure definition of a veteran issue. Along that line, for those that don't know, a lot of our National Guard deploys pretty heavily. And of course, you've got the increased deployment to the borders piece, and all the new governors are saying they're going to deploy the Guard to the border. So the impact on them and the family members are pretty huge. So what does that potentially mean for us? Those are my three.
Good stuff. Thank you. Vice Chair Jackson.
For me, I guess my top two would be, well, I have three, but I'll do top two. Remembrance. So for me, I think one of the biggest things that I think, especially in Scottsdale, is to remember. And I think the people that did serve from here, like the active duty and the National Guard, should be remembered. I think we should look at options for the city to do that in multiple ways. I think obviously got a lot done. I'd like to improve that. And then I would say for me, legislation and policy. I think that as a Veterans Commission, or there's multiple around the valley, I think there was a discussion about a potential like a regional kind of thing, but I think veterans need to know legislation and policy. They should know what's being proposed. They should be able to vote on it in the request to speak. Veterans should know how to use request to speak at the state level. So I think that's biggest for me. And then I'll just, whatever, the rest of them.
That's nice. Chair Polk.
So one thing that has been important to me since coming on board, this is something that we discussed as part of our previous work plan, it's come up, is just upping the awareness and making our younger vet population aware of the resources. I still think that that's a huge gap, and that's not just City of Scottsdale, that's nationwide. That's my sense. I think a lot of organizations and even our city, state, national government do a great job of reaching out to the older population, the older veterans. I think there's still a gap with veterans under the age of 50, under the age of 40, that just are still not aware of the amount of help and resources out there and how to even utilize it. So that's one that is very important to me. The other thing is just supporting the whole veteran family. It kind of speaks to what Commissioner Palmer and Commissioner Semple talked about, but again, not focusing solely on the older veteran population, but there's so many young veteran families with children that are doing dual jobs. I think like we heard from the Elizabeth Dole Foundation from one of the younger mothers who, supporting and caring for her husband while working full time, while having 2 or 3 children under the age of 10. So I think there's still a gap, or there's that need to support the whole family. So those are my 2.
We're hearing some reoccurring themes, just in different ways. Sure. Chairman Ashley.
Well, I may have interpreted the term environmental differently, but so I mean, one of the things that is still, if we still have to deal with, it would impede our plan, obviously, is the limits of COVID. And then, although this is Scottsdale, affordable housing for veterans, I think is something that you looked at it.
Good. Chairman Dominic.
Thank you. Piggybacking on what Commissioner Anderson said, getting the resources out there, and Kelly's been really excellent about putting them on the website so the veterans know how to enroll and those kinds of things. But we have to, I believe, put it out there, kind of put it in people's way, essentially, so that they know. One of the things I would love to see before I retire is that as veterans, or excuse me, active duty service members are EASing, they're automatically enrolled in the VA. So we're not trying to find you because you don't necessarily go back to your home record. We don't know where you are.
Yeah.
So we would love to, I would love to see that person. But in the meantime, getting that information out there. Young veterans in particular have said to me, ma'am, if you would have told my mother, I would know what to do.
Yeah.
So reaching out to family members is really, really important. And I think having more broad information about caregiver, because we have a caregiver support program at the VA, and we can certainly coordinate those people and speak and do those things. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a suggestion. A lot of the veterans that I deal with maybe have a cell phone, and that's because of the age. And seldom do they use computers. They have very few veterans that know how to really use a computer. They may have one, but they don't know how to use it. And they say, well, they can go to the website, and that's great. But if they don't have anything to go to the website, I would just think that maybe in the city of Scottsdale, everybody gets a utility bill, a water bill, or whatever. So it might be good to put something out like that to tell them that there are resources and who they would contact directly. And that's just something that is very frustrating to me as the leader of this group, because I can't get in touch with everybody except by phone, and sometimes it doesn't work. But I think something like that they would see on a consistent basis.
I love that detail, and I think that's something that when you start to really get into the specifics of your action plan and those that can come out even further, and that you can work with Kelly and city staff to do that. So just to wrap things up, I'd like to go back to Vice Chair Jackson and have you just do a quick recap of the things that you heard and maybe some of the reoccurring themes.
So one of the big themes is supporting the whole veteran family. I think Denise, you put it really well. Caregivers, active duty, National Guard, service members. For me, I hit on it earlier, children. Children of veterans have a lot of issues, especially children of disabled veterans who have PTSD and who have other issues. We had the aging veterans, vet suicide. I think it all falls under the full family. supporting the whole family would be the big general for that one. Then we had, awareness of vet benefits. I would put that with veteran transition. Awareness of veterans benefits with, I mean, we put veterans transition, education, jobs, cultural, economic opportunities, as he said, Mr. Anderson, and then financial education. So I think you look at transition, which encompasses all of those. I think you look at the whole, which encompasses many of those. If you're talking about general themes, for me, obviously legislation and policy is my pet one. And younger veteran population, I mean, I think that would fall under the whole family too, right? Affordable housing, I thought was a big one. I don't know if that falls under the whole family. I think that would be on identifying areas of city areas of emphasis for the city that could benefit veterans, if that makes sense, right? I mean.
And these are just themes that will help you as you begin to update your strategies. So these are perfect. And I would ask that maybe you rip that sheet off and let Kelly have that before the end of our meeting today, so that when we're doing the updated meeting notes from this, that we'll be able to include that in there. I think that would be a good thing. So as I mentioned, we've got just these couple activities that are intended to just get your juices flowing and to start getting you thinking about the work that you do as commissioners and the challenges that are out here in the world, right here locally and beyond. So we're going to move on to our next activity, and that is called the Victory Circle. This one, we're just saying that action planning begins with imagining the end product. So right now, I want you to think about, you've been working on your initiatives for a year, you're coming to closure in 2022. So you've been out there, meeting monthly, doing your assignments, bringing back your product and the things that you've been working on. What does that look like? What does victory look like in your head a year from now? Don't limit yourself. Don't worry about bureaucracy or the city red tape, or if a commission's never done something before. Just dream, imagine, no roadblocks. What does victory look like for your commission in a productive, perfect year? And just jot down a couple thoughts, and then I'll get those thoughts from you in a minute. So just take about 2 minutes and jot down your thoughts and ideas about what victory looks like. Just use your imagination. Just create an exciting picture of potential. Got another minute. and we'll get going.
Shoot. Use your paper.
I do.
I talked to her actually. Clerk with him a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah, it's good to-
He and his extended family are some of my favorite people.
Yeah, I think.
Do you know
his-
Casey Sullivan, his brother-in-law? He's a doctor here in Scottsdale, a PR doc, but he also, one of his main duties is fire. Scottsdale Fire Department.
Oh,
So, yeah,
No, he used to talk about Charlotte.
he's been a real positive force in that organization.
A young guy.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. Chairman Dominic, I'll start with you. If you want to just toss out a couple, like two of your thoughts that you had that frame victory for you in your mind, and I'll jot them down.
So I'm wondering about an opportunity for Scottsdale veterans group. So in other words, on social media, there are groups for neighborhoods, right? So people who live in Scottsdale neighborhoods, they reach out to one another. I'm looking for this. I need help with that. I'm new to the community, those kinds of things. An opportunity for a platform like that, just for veterans in Scottsdale, so that they can meet one another and know what's
So
happening.
a veterans platform on
Yes.
Nextdoor, is that what we're?
Yeah, that could be, yes.
You have anything else you'd like to share?
It was more around that, because I'm thinking about when people are living on base, they're in a community and there's a lot of support there. And then when people discharge, that goes away.
Great.
So knowing who your neighbors are and whether or not they've served.
I love that idea.
is helpful.
Yeah. That's great. Anybody else have anything to throw my way so I can make our victory circle? All right, Chair Palmer, Chairman Palmer.
No longer the chair.
Yes.
So I'm going to build on yours, Debbie. What I called it was comprehensive information domain that addresses whatever that entails, whether websites or whatever, but comprehensive information domain that can reach all the veterans, including those that don't have the information technology capabilities, and that would provide the resources or support or whatever for the issues that we'll identify. And the second piece was our primary job is to advise the city council not to do programs, okay? Because we had to go through that, just so we keep focused on what our job is. So I would hope that if we're in the victory circle, the mayor and city council sees value in the information we're providing them and sees that enhances the community. So that's mine too.
All right. Chairman Stemple, you have anything?
I've never been chairman of any. You are now. Thank you.
Or chair?
I think you're meaning to say commissioner.
Commissioner, I am, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
They all appreciate the.
Yes, I've elevated you this evening.
There's no
Is that a raise?
Is that a raise in salary?
I guess I'm sort of being repetitious about what I said before. I'm trying to go, one of the things Chair Palmer, I think, talked about was identifying all the veterans in Scottsdale. And if we identify all the veterans in Scottsdale, how do we communicate with them? And my suggestion is, being old fashioned and being the oldest guy here, that I like to see stuff in writing. And I wonder if we could come up with a small booklet, veterans information, something, you know, a more catchy tune or whatever. And, and in that, break down the categories such as caregiving, financial aid and education, health issues, who's my main contact? Who can I call that will tell me who can help me? You know, and I'm thinking that that accomplishes two things. We can identify all the veterans in Scottsdale, and we can get that information to them and let them know about, for those that are more literate with websites and computers and so forth, that they have this, so they can go to that too. But I think that's the problem, just identifying and telling them what to do.
So just to kind of share something with you, as we all know, we've had this discussion, it's very hard. You can't force people to identify themselves as a veteran. So it's very hard to get those numbers. But at our meeting, Kelly made us aware that there is a survey or a possible new program that the city of Scottsdale has just started using. And we are very much in the just preliminary discussion. What it is it's computer-based. So again, I'm not sure how we're going to navigate around paper form, you know, but it would be a survey sent out to Scottsdale citizens and inviting them to fill out this brief questionnaire. Am I saying that right? And then that data comes back to the city. And then we will have better information about our Scottsdale veteran population, because, you know, right now that's kind of a black hole. And I think one thing that has always stuck with me the 2 years that I've been on the commission is that, again, it's very hard to get people, you know, to identify themselves in certain categories. That has to be a voluntary thing.
How would the
Let me stop for a minute, because as facilitator, I got to keep us on track.
Yes,
and so what we want to do right now is just dream and vision, and don't think of what might not work or hasn't worked. We're just dreaming. If you had a perfect year, the things you would accomplish, and I get it.
Thank you.
Chairman, well, you know, you're anxious to get started with initiatives and get moving forward. But today we're looking more at the big umbrella things. We're going to update your existing work plan, and then you'll have subsequent meetings where you're going to get down to the details and you're going to make assignments.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah. So anyway.
So I just wonder if Chair Polk could phrase hers in the form of a victory type vision.
So I guess I can. I'll just piggyback on what Commissioner Stemple says, is getting that survey and better data about our Scottsdale veterans. Getting that survey out in whatever format the city.
Would you put it under again, I use the generic term, we weren't going into how to do it in this one, but that's why I put a comprehensive information domain out there. That, I mean, is a bigger title, then we can stick stuff under it with that there. So a survey would be part of the information domain that we would collect.
Possibly,
to do.
but like
And that's okay. We're getting down to details again. We're just doing big picture, you know, dream world, perfect world.
So I have one more.
Okay.
I'd like to see the Veterans AZ program grow. You know, I know when we had our initial work plan, that was just very much a very small seed and was barely even a discussion on our initial work plan. Kelly and his staff have definitely taken that and run with it. What I would like to see the commission do with that is support Kelly in a different way, meaning maybe being a little bit more proactive and interactive with with recommendations on topics, guests, panels. Kind of making that something that we can make more ours as a commission, if that makes sense.
Participative,
Yes,
so he's not doing it by himself.
right.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Anybody have anything else to add? Commissioner Ashley?
I have two, well, I had three, one was covered. The first one is literally stories on street corners. And it's not an original idea. I'm stealing it from the city of Tempe. Because they had, if you saw their banners during the Festival of the Arts, they literally have them at every corner, a picture of a vet and a brief story.
Or a QR code.
Yeah.
Like, I'm big into that. I think for me, a victory would be a lot of your videos, family member of a veteran who passed away. And then remembering the veteran, or, like you said, a summary of a code, or a summary, if we can afford that with a plaque, which sometimes you obviously can't, but if you could do a QR code that they flash their phone and then, hey, we have something to remember this veteran. Or for me, a big thing, and I saw what they did, we could get these stories down on tape. Like, they do it at their museum, at their library, and they have all the veteran stories down there. I would like to see bridges renamed after veterans. There's a bridge that goes over Osborne that doesn't have anything on it. There's Osborne Park. Why do we have to name these things Vista del Camino? Why do we have to name them Chaparral? Why can't we discuss at least recommending them as veterans, or having stories out there for these people that serve the community from Scottsdale?
Great ideas. Anyone else have anything to add?
I have one more. This one's,
Okay.
I realize this isn't technically our responsibility, but it would be a victory for me if the board was a little bit more diverse, because we're losing one of our two female members. And the rest of us all look like each other.
Okay,
If I could add to that a little bit.
sure.
Too.
I think that, part of the way that we get diversity, if we can't change the board composition at the moment, would be to highlight and exemplify people of diverse backgrounds, including women and people of color on the show, as well as, like you said, the street corner kind of thing. Definitely, I think that that's a very important thing for Scottsdale to convey. People who become total are seeing Scottsdale and they don't want it to be a one-trick pony.
You basically summarized what I was going to say. It's just about also, again, getting the word out that this commission does exist and that, there's openings and we're looking for candidates and, what that means, I guess.
Proud to live in a city that this committee exists in.
What'd you say?
Proud to live in a city that has a committee like this.
Oh,
I agree.
Commissioner
I was
Anderson.
just
Only last 10 years.
If we, with awareness being a big challenge, if there's a way we've been able to find a way to track. So for me, Victor, we found a way to track our progress. Where awareness is now, where awareness is a year from now. Maybe it's along the lines of the survey, the commission platform, but it'll be hard to know if we've made progress this year if we don't come up with a way to measure it, whether it's focus group or embedding ourselves into the survey. There's some data already there. I just haven't seen it as far as the lens of this committee and the City of Scottsdale website. So
I wanted to ask a question. First of all, I don't understand, maybe I didn't hear you correctly, the thing on the street corner deal.
Well, I used the example of City of Tempe. I caught it when I was working at their Festival of the Arts. Literally, they had banners with a picture of a veteran and a name or something brief description of it. And I assume they just had it up for November. I haven't been back since, so I don't know. So it wouldn't have to be all year in that case, because a banner will only last so long in the heat. But I mean, it was a great optic. I mean, I walked around the entire festival and there was a different face on a different flag.
We have spring training, we have all those. They have a museum with veteran stories where you record a veteran story. It's at their library and they record it. We have a TV show. We could easily have someone write up a summary, have them on a TV show, have a QR code. You can watch the show, look at the summary real quick and see them, or have a banner or something like that, at least for events and festival season, because we have 4 or 5 months of amazing, population here that can see that kind of stuff.
And I have one more question.
Yeah.
How do we communicate with the city council?
The traditional way is for the commission to agree upon something that they would like to communicate to the council. And a lot of times that'll take the form of an email or a memo from the chair of the commission to the council.
In other words, I was just thinking of, is it possible for the council to meet with the city council and go over, tell them what we're doing or something? Is that possible to do it in a personal way, or is it always better to just do it with word of mouth or online?
Commissioner Stemple, members of the commission, it's possible for the chair and or vice chair to get some time in front of the city council at a council meeting. Normally, the way I've seen it is it happens in sort of the presentation part of the council meeting, which is usually limited to 10 minutes max. If that is not something that you think would work, it's possible to get on the council agenda under a regular item. It gets a little bit tricky for a couple of reasons. If you end up wandering into an actual recommendation to the council. Unfortunately, we are just, we have to be creatures of the open meeting law and the way agendas have to be envisioned and created, et cetera. All that said, I think if the commission wants to express something with the council or have a conversation with the council, that's at least something that we could pursue and see if, see if that's something the council would be interested in doing.
Okay.
I'm not
Oh,
facilitating right now.
And then we'll start
Okay,
moving
I'm
forward.
sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah,
discriminate.
not at all. All right.
When we were standing in front of the council giving our 2-minute speech, I got a question from, I think, Councilwoman Littlefield.
Yep.
About what are we doing about affordable housing in Scottsdale?
Correct.
What are we gonna, and I said that that's something that we would take up and, let them know. How do we let them know?
Commissioner Stemple, I would think for something like that, that would take the form of, it would be a topic that you would want to put on your agenda
Okay.
and talk about and arrive at some sort of recommendation. As Commissioner Palmer indicated, that's really your primary duty, is to make recommendations, to advise the city council on issues related to veterans. So if you wanted to get to the form of a formal recommendation to the council, whatever that may be, then you would put that on an agenda, you would discuss it, you would vote on your recommendation, and then that would go to the city council.
Thanks.
And Kelly, back in the day when I used to be a liaison for a commission, the annual report, even though you're not interfacing face-to-face, is an excellent way to bullet point and highlight the things that your commission has accomplished over the years and to get your work in front of them. So that annual report is great, and you do that. So that's another tool.
Okay.
All right, and with that, I'm going to just recap this victory circle very quickly, and then we'll move on to our next activity. So when you all were thinking about what does victory look like for the Veterans Commission, you talked about the mayor and council seeing value in the VAC work. You talked about getting a list or a roster of all the vets that live in Scottsdale and figuring out ways to communicate to not only the vets, but to the greater community, to create that awareness from the veterans to their families and their businesses and all of that. We also heard about a vet info booklet that we're hearing that not all vets are computer literate, and so some written materials might be important. And that booklet would have all kinds of information and contact numbers and such. Another dream is to just continue growing programs for vets in Arizona. And an exciting one that we heard about was stories on street corners. And we kind of got into some of the details of all of that, which included some QR codes and people scanning and how that might work. Also comments about making sure the commission is a little more diverse. How do we do that? How do we diversify the community of the VAC? How do we get people that are interested in volunteering to be a commissioner that are of diverse backgrounds? Getting data and getting surveys out there, that's just huge, a big dream for y'all. We talked about, Pete mentioned, or a comprehensive information domain that reaches vets. A vet platform in Nextdoor, I love that one. So there, you guys had some really great ideas, and hopefully, as you start to update your plan while we're working on this evening, some of these ideas will come into play for you. And so give me a second to make my transition, and maybe I guess you guys are all done eating. So give me a minute or two and we'll move on to the next activity. Thank you. Oh, did you redo them for me?
Kind of. I mean,
Okay.
I just summarized them. If you want, while you're talking, I can say.
Oh, you're good. You're good. We'll figure it out. Yep. Thank you.
And I put down there for, to what Commissioner Stemple was getting on. I did put down there, identify a procedure for providing either reports or communication to the council. If we can't do face-to-face, then at a minimum, it might be nice to at least, if we are going to adopt recommendations or we are going to propose items, that we have some kind of procedure to either vote and adopt or do something of the sort that doesn't involve wasting their time before we send them communications.
And, Vice Chair Jackson, I can just let you know while Christie's getting set up. The other commission that I support is the Human Relations Commission. And last April, they made a formal recommendation to the city council that the city council adopt an anti-discrimination ordinance in Scottsdale. And so after they took that action, we helped them prepare a memo, a detailed memo that was then sent to the mayor and city council. And then of course, on that one, the mayor and council took that up, they put it on an agenda and they pushed that through and actually adopted the ordinance. So, that was the one example that I've been directly involved in of something that the council, a commission wanted, commission worked with staff to do the legwork on, packaged it up, said, okay, city council, this is what we recommend you do. The council took it, put it on agenda, and put it into ordinance. So that is certainly one way to do that.
If I, first of all, I think there is a formal process that we can get something to the city council. But what I would potentially think through is we need to know what the city council wants from us, because our job is to advise them on some. We can put a proposal for, but our job is to work for the city council to advise them on veteran related. And just the reality check is veterans make up only 6% of the population in Scottsdale, okay? And that's from the census data. So we know the big number data. Most of them are the older, although we made the attempt to try to find the younger. But if we get a survey, but it's 6% of the voting population in terms of the council. It's, and so, and most of them are the older group, 67% or something like that. So you all got the data for them. But the issues that the city council has, because we all work with the city council on other issues, they've got other issues. The housing is a huge issue, okay? So if we're gonna put something into the city council on the housing, understand you're gonna run into political diversity there that we may or may not, because it will distract from what we're trying to do on veterans. But that's when we do the specific stuff. we just need to be aware of what the city council is facing and the city's facing, because our issues may not be that important, I would put it that way. So we need to pick and choose what we need. And to be honest, I would like to have guidance from the mayor and the council. What do they want us to focus on? Mayor Land told us to focus on. We sent up the work plan to them and says, this is what we're going to do. They approved it, but it was helpful when they told us, we'd like you to look at something.
So I'll just add this and then we'll wrap this up and move on. I know that there's been a couple times over the past few years where we met with Mayor Lane and then Mayor Ortega. So maybe at some point in the coming months, Vice Chair Jackson and I can have another meeting like that to kind of get an idea of where they would like to see us head or what is important to them for us to present or propose to them for action or discussion topics. So that's just something to think about. Might be time to circle back and do that again.
Okay, great. And our next activity is really where we're doing the work. This is where we're going to roll up our sleeves and take a look at what you've done and the tasks that you've been assigned within your ordinance. We're going to go through each of the tasks, which are bulleted out in your ordinance, and look at those. And then the initiatives below them. And we've talked a little bit by Chairman Polk and I have talked a little bit about needing some, prodding and discussion if necessary to talk a little bit more about what's been done, but we want to look at these, talk about them, and the goal is to determine what's still relevant, what needs to be added, and then later as we prioritize those, you've seen some dots there on your in front of you in your workstation. We'll later prioritize these in all three of the areas, and then you'll begin to see visually what it is that you all feel is important to continue working on. The very nature or the very fact that you don't put a dot next to an initiative then means that it's not a priority or it could be dropped from your list. So we'll begin to do that. So right now, what I'm asking you to do is just take a look at this task, which is to advise the city council by making recommendations on Scottsdale City directed military and veteran programs, policies, and practices. The purpose of that task is to improve the quality of life for veterans living in Scottsdale. You have before you in blue some of the things that you've accomplished to meet those initiatives, to meet that task over the past year. And so we want to talk a little bit about what they are and how they worked. And Denise, if you just want to jump in and talk a little bit about what you accomplished or what you felt was relevant, or we just want to discuss that as a commission. So
before we do that, just as a reminder, and we don't have the original guidance that we got from the city council and the mayor. The tasks are basically direct tasks given to us by the city council. So when you see these tasks, now we combined some of them because they were kind of duplicitous, but just to understand, when the tasks are there, that's what the city council gave us when we stood up the commission.
Right.
We've received no new guidance on tasks yet.
So your
That's a
tasks
very
will
good
not
point.
change,
For
right?
those that are new, the tasks do not change, like,
So-
or they may.
Or they could change
They
if you
could,
get guidance.
if we get guidance from the council, but for tonight's discussion.
Which would require changing an ordinance.
Right.
Yeah, the ordinance,
Yeah.
the tasks are ordinance based, so
Yes.
even guidance from the council is not gonna change the
Right.
tasks.
Right.
Yeah.
So just thank you for bringing that up, clarification.
So these
That doesn't
tasks-
change.
Identify your purpose and responsibilities. That's how it's
Right.
written in your ordinance. And so I think there's 5 of them in the ordinance, but you have chosen to combine a few of those into some of your tasks so that they include, all 5 are included in your 3. So the tasks will not change. What we want to talk about are these that are broken out: 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, just anything that stands out. Talk about Chairman Polk, if you want to highlight some of the things that you've accomplished as it relates to the initiative for task one, that would be good.
So I think the biggest one that I'm gonna identify that we've accomplished under task one is just the beefing up of the website and the information that is available on the city's website for veterans. Definitely a work in progress, like all websites usually are. But that has come a long way from where we were 2 years ago. A large credit to Kelly and
Kelly,
his staff.
yeah.
But I think that's something that we've not only accomplished, but it's still a work in progress.
And so we don't want to go through each one with complete detail because you've had homework and you also have the worksheets in front of you with the blue that highlights what you've accomplished. My other hope is that, I'll be right with you, that the things that we discussed earlier that are initiatives that relate to what's going on in the environmental scan, or the things that we talked about when we started envisioning success, those are the things that we want to see added where they relate. So as we're having this discussion, think back on those things and jot them down. You all have in your pile here, a little Post-it. So as we're talking, and we'll go, like I said, task at a time. So right now we're just going to be working on task one. You can start jotting down some 3 to 5 word statements that relate to those things that you think should be added. So even if you want to just take a few minutes and look at your sheet and the blue things that you've accomplished, and then recall some of the conversation we've had, jot those things down on your Post-it. 1 Post-it per thought. And we're just going to ask each commissioner to share their top 2 Post-its. So, you know, glean from our conversation 2 of the most important things that you felt relate to task number 1, which is to improve the quality of life for veterans living in Scottsdale.
And it can be any of these priorities under
any of your priorities 1 through 3 that relate to task number 1.
Yeah, if I can just say something on that, just so the task was from the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, we were tasked to put together a work plan to get the ordinance. So when you see these subtasks, this was the former commission's thoughts of how we achieve the main task. So what I would propose is we don't necessarily need to be wed to every one of these subtasks because that was what the former commission thought. So if you've got another idea that, you know, task 1, I'll say subtask 1, 2, and 3, we don't need to do that anymore, or we got a different one to achieve the overtask. I think
Commissioner Palmer,
Right.
that will come out when we do the
Okay.
prioritization with the
Yeah.
dots. And so right now you're correct. We just want overarching thoughts, things that you think should be added or that have come to mind when we've talked about to improve the quality of life for veterans while we had our previous discussions, and come up with 1 or 2 Post-its. And then I'll ask you to share those and we'll put them under the specific areas. So just take a few minutes and look at the worksheet. And this is like a college course, isn't it?
I know, all kinds of homework tonight.
Does that include deletions?
When we
Yeah.
prioritize, they'll automatically be
They'll just
deleted
drop,
because
okay.
you won't see a dot next to them. Yeah.
Excellent.
and we're just working task 1, correct?
Right now, only task 1. Yep. And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes and then I'll take your Post-its. Actually, I think I'll have you take your Post-its and place them under your task numbers.
So if we don't have any additions or deletions, what else should we be writing on our post-it? Because I don't.
You have no additions.
Yeah.
Then silence is golden. Just study your sheet and be prepared to have discussion with what other people have thought should be added.
You could cheat and look ahead on some of the next ones.
Well, I didn't look at this weekend. That's why I had notes on the sheet that I brought.
So as you're ready, take your Post-it. I'll get out of the way. And you just want to bring your Post-it and put it next to, they can overlap if necessary, to the number of subtasks. Goes with number 2. Okay.
Some of it's a repeat of something.
Okay. Sure.
Ran over because I write too big.
That's okay.
So it's one idea.
Okay. Just bring it up and put it where it fits. And if you think it needs to be a number 4, just put it on, okay? So it goes under number 2 here. is what you're saying.
Yes.
Cold in here because it was during the last. Yeah.
Now this is colder.
Well, I know the temp outside is colder than in January.
If I think this cold, imagine what's going to happen at the end.
Well, you'll have the appropriate clothing then too, right?
There's that. There's that.
When was the last time you lived in snow?
18 years.
Oh, wow.
I don't really understand this, but I'll put it up here.
All right, so what you're telling me then is that this one that you created fits under number 1, which is identifying existing city effective.
That's correct.
Okay, you got it. You do understand it.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. We have any left? Let's bring them up.
I don't even know. I'm not sure.
The next one, don't worry.
Okay,
One more, sorry.
sure.
Where did it go?
So it goes under number 3, is what you're saying. And that's to make it stick. I see what you're doing. Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to number 2. I'm gonna take a second to make that transition. I would love it if you wanna grab that for me. What I'm trying to do is in the front, tape that up.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, next, we're gonna look at task number 2, which is educate, and you can follow on your sheets. Educate the community on the status of military veterans' rights, needs, and contributions to our community. The purpose is to develop a social awareness program that informs the community about the rights, needs, and multiple historic and current contributions of Scottsdale veterans. So as we have talked about things, as you're looking at the sheet there, with the accomplishments that you've made and the notes about where you're at with things, come up with another 2 Post-its that relate to task number 2 within your ordinance. And when you're ready, just bring them up and place them next to the subtask that it fits next to.
My post is the same as this. Like, I think all of these are good. Do I just not do anything with it?
Don't add it. If it's repetitive, then don't worry about it.
I'm putting up ones I think we can delete because technically we've accomplished them, but other than that,
Don't put ones we're gonna delete because you'll delete them naturally without putting dots next to them.
so we're gonna go back and put dots next.
To the ones that you feel are priority. So the ones that don't receive priority will fall off of your list, at least will be at the bottom of your priority list. You can at some point determine if you want to keep them, but they're not like top priority, you could do that. We'll prepare a document for you that lists them in the level of priority. So that would come in subsequent meetings where you can look at that more closely, but don't worry about deleting because that will naturally occur in this process. Okay, I'm gonna get out of your way.
Caregiver. And where should I put it?
Where you think it fits. Does it fit in any one of these? Right there, okay? Anything more to add before we move on?
Oh, you're fine.
And be sure to place
We
them
can take
next
turns.
to the task number, the subtask that it fits. Okay. Everybody done? I'm gonna take that as a yes.
Three, we're doing three.
All right, we're on our last task, so you guys know the routine. Chair, Commissioner Stempl's already here and doing his thing.
Now they understand.
Wow, yeah.
Let's go back and look at the others.
Make this more interesting. Dots could have darks.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Over this way, Joel.
I need.
Issue.
Okay.
All right, do we have everyone's?
One more.
All right, so this is your choice.
I said, I'm not smart.
We can take a quick break. There are restrooms in the hallway there and come back and do our prioritization. Or if you just want to dig in and get down to prioritizing, we can do that as well.
Dot and then break.
I think we should press on if everybody's
Sure.
willing.
Yeah.
Right, and once the dots are done, we're very close to finishing anyway. So what we want to do now is you each have 8 dots in front of you. Remember that you can use 1 dot per subgroup. So we're not going to dot on a task because we know they are remaining. But your subtasks, the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, again, 1, 2, 3. You want to look at those subtasks and you're going to spread your 8 dots around. You've got 3 tasks that are in your ordinance that you need to save your dots for. So think a while. You can get up and walk and look at the sheets and place your dots. No loading dots. So 1 dot per task.
You mean per yellow sheet?
Well, you can put a dot next to a yellow sheet because those are new items.
Okay,
Or you can put a dot next to an existing one
Okay.
because you still think that's important.
Are we supposed to put our initials on the dots or
Nope.
is it just dots?
Just dots.
Okay.
So remember, the Post-its are new. You can put dots there. And you can also put dots on existing tasks,
Okay.
subtasks. And just take your time and read them because you've only got 8. So we're trying to figure out as a commission where the priorities lie. And hopefully we don't end up with all over the board, but we'll figure it out if we do.
Must be using brain cells because usually I don't need it. It's words.
I'll be eating my dinner in the car on the way home.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, no, I'm glad to be here. It was a great group to work with.
There's one more cookie if you need something to snack on.
Christine, did you hear that?
There's one more cookie if you want something to snack on.
Oh, no, I'm good. I've got my protein drink
Oh,
too,
okay.
so thank you though.
That sounds healthier.
Yeah.
This is definitely moving faster than we have to start from scratch.
Yes, for sure. Take your time.
Done. All right. Let me take my time. That's to spare.
Well, we need you to spend your dots because we want to build up of dots if we can.
Are we breaking after we're done dotting, or are we waiting for the whole group to get done so that we can meet?
That's up to you guys.
I think it's gonna be a bit.
Is there a water fountain up there, you know?
There's also a couple of bottled waters here.
Oh, if there is, I'll just go.
There is, but it doesn't have a handy bottle filling station, so you'll have to use yours.
Those early, I'm like,
Yeah.
grab one.
Yeah. Put some water.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to this room.
It's not as cold in here as it was last time we.
Really?
I don't think.
We'll have to find that thermostat.
Well, there's one on the wall right there, but it looks.
I'm sure someone has to, this glass, you know, and this, boat. What
Oh.
degrees up?
It's not the,
In case you get too loud.
So you're Marine?
No, I'm Navy,
You serve?
92 to 97. It's been a while.
Yeah. It feels like it's it still feels very frequent or recent, but I went back to Hawaii, I went to the base, and it was just insanely different. And I'm like, yep, I'm not here anymore. I'm definitely not in the military anymore.
Yeah, I was stationed in San Diego, and of course, we still go there
Oh, yeah.
pretty frequently, and it's always cool to look over the Coronado Bridge and see the naval station. I know Land knows that, that part of San Diego Harbor well.
Which part of San Diego do you live in, Kelly?
I lived in Pacific Beach for a while. I lived in Mission Beach for a while, and then I lived downtown.
Nice.
for a
I
while.
was in Pacific Beach for a while, in Coronado. I think I like PV, just we're Everett's and Bellspar, I guess, kind of right there, maybe those intersect. I don't know. Right by whatchamacallit, Cass Street Bar and Grill.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of good spot. We're probably up the hill there somewhere.
Yeah, we were actually down toward the bay.
Okay. Mission Bay.
Yeah.
PV Drive. down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, PB Drive, exactly.
Yeah, the Catamarans where we stay when we go back. That's a good place. You got the ability to rent boats and stand up paddleboard and stuff on Mission Bay, then just walk across the street on
Yeah,
the beach too, the ocean.
yeah, one of my old shipmates actually still lives on Coronado, so we actually go and stay with them. It's a nice way to do it.
Yeah.
Going there for Valentine's Day.
Oh, good deal.
We're doing Airbnb, so I'm trying to get the Oceanside. My wife's got a hotel backup. I'm like, I just want to be near the beach. You know, I'm stationed in Hawaii, so I love going to San Diego.
Yeah,
Because there's just nothing like it. San Diego is the closest I've seen. And I love it there.
Yeah, Miguel Casinos on the east side of the street, Orange Avenue, if you're kind of, Coronado is a good place for Mexican food. I think it's still there.
yep.
Yeah, fantastic. Coronado does not allow dogs to do this.
Oh, they don't?
No.
but there's a lot of people walking dogs all around the island.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And then on Mission Bay and on the ocean, I think
That's
it's
what
after
we're
9 o'clock, after 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock. You can't have it on the beach. It changed so much. It's ridiculous.
You know, you talk about the.
It's,
That's the one thing that I know, even noticed when I was living there and then going back now, it's like, this feels so much more crowded.
Access.
Yeah, you get from I-5 and try to drive west towards the beach, like
Yeah.
Mission Bay and
This
Beaver
guy's
Drive,
like veteran.
20-minute drive.
Quality of
Yeah.
life union
It's
was put together. Basically, I wrote, but we added the whole.
But there's a dog beach in Mission Bay. There's a whole dog, not like dog beach, dog beach is ocean, but there's a dog park in Mission Bay.
We could
It's
add
pretty
that
cool.
whole.
that's where
manual,
we're trying to go,
print
like
it,
that
'cause
Ocean
it's on-
Beach, I think.
He's gonna be posting it online
Yeah.
now,
On the, whatever that
but
thing.
it has everything.
If you need to go,
'Cause I
I'm
just
sure
put
it's
everything
fine.
in
We'll
the-
be recapping all this and putting out minutes and
Now, there might be other.
we'll have all that
shows,
in for Kelly. I mean,
I just-
We're not-
you have an MRI at
Sign
8
pass.
o'clock. If you need to go, go.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And you've seen what I'm talking about.
We still have a form. It's all good.
Okay. I'm trying to.
So, okay, well, let's recap what we see here. And then, Chair Polk will give us next steps after this.
Okay.
So, as you can see, your dots have identified what this group feels is priority for the upcoming year. Some of them are pretty clear that many of you think that they are. And then there's some that are kind of a smattering, but it does reflect visually what your group as a whole feels is important. And then what I will do is put together the document with the list of the dots. We'll take pictures of all of this, and then we'll get back a document to you that's a little bit easier to read. This is a bit chaotic, I get that, but we'll just recap briefly. So in this area under task 3, so we're starting with the last first. One of the things that you all feel that really is standing out is that with, what is that, 5, 6 votes, 6 priorities, VAs with other VACs. That's a big deal for you guys. That should occur in this upcoming year. You have a couple other smatterings of 2, 2, 2, and because we've got some time constraints, we'll get that document out that highlights what those are. And then you even included some existing tasks, subtasks that you still feel are important and you want to continue to work on. One being identify programs and organizations that provide services and support for veterans. And then you've got some breakouts in those areas for number 2. Also, it looks like number 3, develop concept for city-sponsored information platform to inform and direct veterans' personal professional enhancement services. So you've got some new stuff and you've got some things that you were working on that you still think are relevant and need to have the work continue. And we'll go to task 2. Looks like this one has some good responses. Some of your higher priorities, augment website info with all AD, NE caregiver and additional vet resources.
There's active duty, National Guard, caregiver. I think that's a big thing.
Okay. And so clearly y'all felt that was important and that's one of your priorities for the upcoming year. Let's see. This is still task 2. We've got 3 on there. City of Scottsdale generated survey to identify vets and other demographic info. Another one, here's a good one with 4. Create remembrance programs like street corner naming, family member stories, etc. And we talked a little bit about that and what that might look like. So that'll be work that you'll further flesh out in upcoming meetings. Let's see. Expand broadcasting to other social media platforms. That was an important one. And then back to task number 1, there's some existing subtasks that you want to keep. Develop, recommend new City of Scottsdale programs, policies, and practices to support vets. This one.
Legislative policy or information. I understand they're not going to take legislative stances, but at least having the information available to veterans and maybe some information regarding the request to speak, just not providing like, hey, we need to vote for this, but hey, here's how you do it if you're a veteran. So you have a voice, I think is what I would say.
Great. So with that, we will create a document for you so you can better, look at that and kind of a one glance thing instead of this all over the place. But the dots do help to visually prioritize what you would like to work on in the upcoming year. And then you'll develop those plans in subsequent meetings. So we'll get those documents to you. If there are any next steps or anything that Kelly or Chairman Polk want to add, then I'm done with my work. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
I don't think I have anything to add. I think, as I said, Vice Chairman Jackson may already be, maybe you're all aware of this. So thank you
Oh, sure.
for your help again.
Exactly.
and much appreciated. So as Christy shared, she's gonna get this document. It won't be, it'll be a draft document for us to review. So we'll, fine tune it, and then we'll start talking about responsibilities and whether there needs to be assignment of tasks for our different commissioners and how we go about doing that. So that'll happen in the coming months.
Yeah, and sure, Polk, I would just suggest that I think at your next meeting, you can have this draft plan on your agenda for action. You can adopt it. I don't think you want to let it languish
No.
for too long. So I think that could be on your agenda, ready to go for the next meeting. And at that meeting, you can also start identifying if there's particular commissioners that want to take the lead on any specific actions that you have.
Okay,
I think all that can happen at the March meeting.
that's a very good point. Probably not to have this just kind of sit out there.
Along that line, is it possible that you could get with the mayor ahead of time before that, so you could bring in any new guidance if we're going to finalize the action
We
plan?
could certainly try to get Chair Polk and Vice Chair Jackson on his schedule.
Okay,
Just as a thought, so if we're going to go adopt it, we'll have their guidance as part of it.
yeah, and I know that just being aware that that's like 4 weeks out. So if it can't be before that March meeting, then I think it's clear that that is something that's important for us to meet with them in the next couple of months.
Could it be maybe more effective to communicate to the council members and the mayor just to send us kind of a written list of, hey, this is what we're thinking?
I think that's certainly possible. I'll communicate with the chair or vice chair, but that's certainly something we could do is just share via memo to the mayor and council that just let you know the Veterans Advisory Commission is updating their work plan. This is the current draft. They're scheduled to take action on it in March. If you have any feedback for them in the interim,
Yes.
I think we can do that.
Right. That's really all I have regarding this on our agenda. Does anybody have any questions or anything else to speak about? Okay, we will then move on to our next agenda on the item, which is our commission members' reports, updates, and suggestions for future agenda items. Or any suggestions regarding, I already said the agenda for next meeting. So does anybody have anything that they want to add or share? March meeting?
Well, not from the March meeting, but just
Or just as an update?
update the pamphlet that we put together that the commission said we could put in. We finalized the draft, or we finalized the pamphlet, and Kelly has, this is the quality of life pamphlet. And it gets, to be honest, it gets in line a lot with what Joel was proposing, because if we needed another medium, you could publish that pamphlet in paper. But right now, it's just going to go on the website. For those that haven't seen it, I'd recommend you look at it. You can send it out, Kelly, and let everybody review it. Because I tried to capture everything that we've captured informationally to pass on to the veterans, at least in the last chapter of that manual. And of course, the VA stuff, as you know, Debbie's all in there. So the one thing I will add is we have found that National Guard that have not served under federal orders do not get the caregiver from, they don't get any VA benefits is really what it amounts to.
Yeah, so that's a congressional issue. That would be nice. That would change.
Did anybody pick this up and take a look at it?
I got it in the mail.
There's absolutely nothing on veterans at all in here. This might be something I'd like, there's a place here for seniors, but there's absolutely no place. Is this under your purview?
Commissioner Stemple is referring to the Scottsdale Life publication. That is the City of Scottsdale's Parks and Recreation catalog of offerings. So
that wouldn't have.
if there isn't an offering specific to veterans, it's not gonna be called out.
I just wondered. Thank you.
I'm sure we haven't talked about the guard in a while, but I do have a contact with the city of Peoria folks who did their garden, who offered back in December to come and talk to us about how they set their garden up. So that could be something.
Okay, I'm I'm not aware of a garden. I'm sorry.
Well, it was the memorial, it was called the garden in one meeting, I think.
That was me.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec Commissioner, I talked to about it, and potentially they had discussed setting up a garden. And my hope was that eventually on the agenda, we can get it on there so that we could have some kind of veteran, name, something like that, and maybe some information or something like that.
So I guess what I would suggest, Commissioner Ashley, is if there's someone that you would like to see invited to a future commission meeting, please send that to Kelly and possibly CC me, and Kelly can reach out with you and hopefully get that on our agenda.
Certainly.
Potential speaker and additional information. Kelly, do you have anything to add about that?
And Chair Polk, I can also reach out to our Parks Department and find out where their discussions of a community garden are, and just if it sounds like something that's moving forward and there's possibility for some sort of veterans component to that, then we could also ask our Parks Department to come and present to you about what's happening there.
Excellent.
That'd be great. Anybody else? Yes.
If I may, Chair Polk, I did want to invite, some of you received an email, and it was intended to go to the whole commission, but we had a logistical error there. But we, the city, are hosting a float in the annual Parada del Sol on Saturday. And for those who don't know, Parada is one of the longest standing traditions in Scottsdale. It's one of the longest running parades in the nation. And our float is something that my team here in the design studio has put together, mostly Amy Herring, who you met earlier. She's a wizard at everything. And she took an idea to recreate the love sculpture. And so we have recreated the love sculpture, which some of you may not know is currently in storage while the Civic Center project is done.
They didn't get rid of it.
Nope, it's safely in storage, and it will return to a place of prominence once that public space is ready once again. In the interim, we have a wonderful replica that'll be rolling along in the Parada as part of our Scottsdale for All program. Scottsdale for All is a messaging program that our department puts together that really does celebrate the people of Scottsdale. It tells the stories of people in Scottsdale, whoever those people are, whatever their backgrounds. And so we are hoping to promote that campaign. And so this is a long way of inviting any of you who want to come and participate in Parada and to walk as part of our Scottsdale for All entry. You are invited to do so. We would love to have you, your family members as well. So anybody, it's an open invitation. We gather here Saturday morning. The parade is only 1 mile, so it's not particularly arduous. It's a lot of fun. There will be a lot of people out in the community. So if any of you are interested, please just contact me directly. I'll get you in touch with Amy, and we'll get you on the list and get you the information you need to participate. I believe it starts at 8 a.m. We might ask people to gather a little before then, but it's sometime first thing in the morning. And you'll be done well before noon.
And cowboy boots and hat are prerequisite. So if you don't have that.
You might need tennis shoes.
I don't
I'm
own
just
cowboy
teasing.
boots or a cowboy
I'm
hat,
just teasing.
and I marched in it a couple of years ago. I didn't get.
What do you wear? I mean, besides cowboy boots and the hat, which I don't have.
Well,
Or something.
Yeah, we're.
I'm just teasing.
I wear a
I'm
thong.
completely teasing. One of the best things about the parade, though, is seeing everybody. There's so many people out in their different cowboy and cowgirl gear. It's a
So
good show.
where do we meet here?
I'll get you the information. If
Yeah.
you're interested in participating, let me know, and I'll get you in touch with Amy, and she's handling all the logistical details.
Thank you for that, Kelly.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I would just like to say thank you to Commissioner Dominic for your contributions over the past year. You definitely were not with us long enough, but we're so proud and pleased that you're moving on to something new and something groundbreaking for the VA. So best of luck to you. Please keep in touch. I know I will be reaching out to you, but you've been a very valuable resource, not only just for veterans in the community, but also for this commission. So heartfelt thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And it's-
Debbie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think that's it, unless anybody else has. All right, so that concludes our agenda for the February meeting. I will entertain a motion from the commission.
Motion to end.
All right, is there a second? All right, so that was moved by Vice Chairman Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Sample. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you all for being here.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for contributing to the work plan too. Is it okay with you if I just send you?
Oh, please, I'll be bugging you.
Okay.
And you send your email address.
Just for,
The
Yes.
location
Yes,
page,
I gave
it
him-
was so fun.
Perfect. Yes.
You'll get one back that says.
I-
All right.
yeah, that was an earlier.
That's the done.
Yep, please, you need whatever you guys think you want to share, and I'll keep sharing it.
I get it posted on.
Well,
Thanks, Debbie.
I'll reach out to you.
Look at that.
separately.
See if that meets your
I'm
need,
especially interested in the
let's do that.
legislative part of it. That's one piece that is gapping to
I
my
don't know if they
knowledge.
have.
And as I become more involved with